Well, good morning, and thank you. It's absolutely an honor to be here and speak in front of this group today, certainly considering those that have spoken here before me. Some really great history in this town and some very big businesses. I do want to just take a few minutes because I'm going to mention a number of names today, and I want to introduce some of the key players that are here today. First and foremost, my parents, Larry and Deanna Gilinsky. My brother and longtime partner, Kevin Gilinsky. My 23-year partner and current CEO of Bergman Incentives, Mike Battershell. And next to Mike, Amy Partridge, who's been with our business, I think, 5 years now and is a current partner and is our CFO. And I just want to make sure you know who these people are, and they're really important to the story that I have to tell. And I think from a business point of view, there are a couple key takeaways that I hope to communicate to you today. First of all, how not only to survive, but how to thrive as a 136-year-old company over 5 consecutive family generations. And maybe two, a small business, and we are a small business. We've always been a small business. I think there were maybe 12 people when I joined the company. We're over 40 now. We're growing, but we're a small business, and a small business better have a plan. And that could be succession, it could be sale, or choose your own adventure. But I think really the overarching theme today for me is community. And today here, this is a great example of community and what I like about Omaha and why it's important that we have a business here and what drew me back here. And it's interesting that that's really shines through in, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, Mike and Amy and Kevin and I got together and really tried to hammer out some strategy, do long-term planning, and you try to figure out, well, what's our mission? What are our core values? And every company tries to go through this. And we landed on 2 core values. One is relationships matter, and another is own it. And when we landed on these, it was such a no-brainer to me. I'm like, this makes complete sense to me. I was like, because I would think kind of like new guard and old guard might have a big difference on vision and mission and core values, but these are the core values that this company's had ever since the beginning. And it really is the strength of Bergman as a collective set of companies that has allowed us to transcend through the years based on those values. And relationships mean a lot of things. It's this relationship with community, it's relationship with our suppliers, relationships with our clients, and everything is intertwined. And I think sometimes in business we like to categorize our time, and I spend this much on community and this much on business, and this is family time. And I think it's all more intertwined than we all really know. So I just want to give you I'll give you a brief history, because 136 years, we could be here a long time. And I'm going to try and keep this concise so you guys can get out of here, and we'll definitely be out of here before 9. It started in 1888, as was mentioned, by Saul Bergman. And honestly, I think Saul Bergman was kind of a badass. I mean, he was from New York. He moved, he took the train to Omaha, Nebraska in, I think, 1883, 1884. And he was here to collect on is sort of a consignment of goods that his company that he worked for had sold a company here. They weren't paying their bills. They couldn't sell the goods, whatever those were. I'm not sure, probably watch parts. And he got off the train. He's like, this place is awesome. I think Omaha was relatively a bigger town in the United States than it is today. I think it was very important waypoint for travel west and pioneering. And so I think he was incredibly visionary, determined, made sacrifices. Moving to Omaha wasn't like today, moving from New York to Omaha. And he saw the opportunity, and he took over what was left of that company and started to build a business. I brought a little prop today. This is some book called Pen and Sunlight Sketches, Omaha and Environs. 1892 is what this book's from. We've got all kinds of treasures of Bergman's. None of them are going to end up in the Smithsonian. But I did want to read a little bit from that book, and it's kind of interesting. It says, the movement of the most substantial business enterprises toward the Middle West, we were called the Middle West, Omaha is particularly favored in this way and has had many of the most reputable concerns in the country locate here, none, however, of greater importance than the well-known Saul Bergman Jewelry Company. And it ends with, Mr. Bergman has become very popular in leading social and commercial circles. I think he was plugged in Omaha in terms of had a seat at the table. And there's another little snippet I've got here. Among pioneer businessmen of Omaha who have stuck to the city through thick and thin during good years and bad is Saul Bergman, now well up in years and the oldest depositor in the First National Bank. Mr. Bergman is, friends believe, the oldest active man in the jewelry business in the Middle West. He came to Omaha in 1883 and the same day placed what money he had in the First National Bank. And interestingly, relationships matter. I think we have loan documents going back before 1900 with First National Bank. We continue to do business with them today. They're one of the few other Omaha-based businesses that have transcended through generations. I believe you could draw a line from the Kuntzes to the Davises to the Loritz, and I think it's the same family. I could be wrong, but they're also multi-generational, still in business, and obviously slightly larger than Bergman's. But that's a side point. So really, Saul came. He was in the watch materials business. His son, Clarence, came into the business. They expanded into jewelry. Clarence was the father of my grandmother, who went by Chickie. Her name was Frances Bergman. She, many of you met Chickie, know Chickie. She passed away in 2018 at the ripe age of 103. She was the tie, the Bergman, whose name's on the building. And she was the only child and married Stuart Gilinsky. And Stuart came into the business after he married Chickie. And you know the rest of the players. Goes on to Larry, my Aunt Susie, part of the fourth generation, Kevin and I, the fifth generation. I don't know if there are any other businesses in Omaha that are that old, still operating with the same family. Maybe MP Dodge, maybe you guys could educate me a little bit on that. I think of companies like Omaha Steaks, 4 generations, Allmakes, 4 generations, but both of them are sort of startups to us. They're not barely over 100 years old. And it's a little sad when you think about the history, of the businesses that certainly my dad's generation grew up knowing. All these older 3 and 4 generation Jewish and non-Jewish owned family businesses, many of them are gone. Some grew into large successful enterprises and were sold. Some went public. Many more were forced out of business by changing, business and demographics. And when you think about restaurants and clothing stores and all the things that are hard to compete in, changing markets. Some had no succession plan, no one to take it over. I think it's a little sad when I think about what I observed in my youth and as I've grown up. But so proud that many of us are here today. And so when I think of David's class. When I came back to town in 1990, and I think about my peers, some of whom are here today, flocked back to Omaha. Todd Simon came back to Omaha Steaks. Jeff Gordman to what was then Richmond Gordman Stores. Jeff Platt, what was then Best Pop, became Ideal Pure Water. David and Bruce Goldberg, Keystone Medicine Chest Pharmacies. Rick Schrager to Pacesetter. Amy and Jeff Cabbage to Allmakes. Ted Friedland to United Distributor, now Republic. And there's others. It was a thing to come back to the family business. But in our generation, it wasn't because we didn't have opportunity elsewhere. I think our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation didn't have opportunities. They weren't welcomed in the larger business environments. It was, you had to be a merchant and you had to figure it out yourself. I had, opportunity, but I chose to come back, and we'll talk more about that as we go along here. But I think, how did we survive and how did we get here? I think we're distributors. We don't manufacture anything. And we never, we tried to integrate backwards at one time, but we've never been a manufacturer. We don't have some type of patented process or product. So survival as a distributor in any business requires agility and some type of foresight. Stuart tried to expand the business by moving into traditional jewelry lines and gift lines And we were able to build business with small town jewelers, in the Mink states, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, sales guys on the road. And that was how we built that business. Now, Dad came into the business when he was like, I don't know, he was like 22, he was a baby. He was 22 years old, trying to go to school, trying to have a family, eventually just said, I got to focus on the business. But Dad was always just the innovator and was always an early adopter, and he expanded us into all sorts of things. I remember when I was growing up, one kind of crazy one is we were like the largest distributor of Panasonic TVs when they were growing their business. And that was before there was no Best Buy, right? There was no Circuit City. And I remember that's why we had that building on 14th Street. The warehouse upstairs was full of big TVs, which in the old days, kids, they were big. And we were selling to Gimbel's department store and all sorts of stuff. My dad was one of the first adopters of digital watches. Everybody thought that was a fad. He was invested in it heavily in the beginning, and obviously it became a big deal. We had those really cool clocks with the cat eyes that went back and forth and the tail wag. Like, we had that. We went into appliances. If you walked into Bergman's in 1977, which some of you did, it was a little bit of a Walmart flavor. There was all sorts of stuff. I mean, we didn't know what Walmart was at the time, but we sold all kinds of stuff, and that was just a testament to the ability to expand our lines, expand our markets, and what else could we sell to the people that we dealt with, mostly in small farm towns who needed more of a variety of things. But I think it was the fortuitous vision, I think, that Dad had, was one day when the VP of HR of OPPD walked in and was looking at some Bulova Accutron watches, and those were hot, by the way, and they were nice. And they asked, hey, could we put our logo on there and you etch 25 years on the back? Everybody was working for those gold watches, right? And my dad investigated it and figured out, well, yeah, we could do that. We could put a logo on there. And I think he saw, well, there's something here. There was more demand for that sort of gift, incentive, recognition, reward. It tied into our business from the jewelry end. And over time, an opportunity presented itself, and I really credit my father with taking advantage of it. But many of you may remember Leo Nog of blessed memory, who was good friends with my grandfather's generation, married to Babe Nog. Babe Nog and my grandmother were friends their entire life. And Leo was a sales guy in the incentives business, ran his own business, but his business wasn't going so well, but he's a hell of a salesman. So he joined Bergman's. My dad said, here, I'll take care of the overhead, I'll figure the business out, you just go sell. And at the same time, my aunt wanted to get back into the workforce, and so Susie came and worked for Leo as assisting him in the sales process, and he was doing really well. And I would call home from college and from where it was in business. I'm like, Dad, what's going on? How's business? And he's like, I'd hear what Leo was doing. He was making a lot of money. He was doing really well. It sparked my interest. I never was that terribly fascinated with the wholesale jewelry business, didn't totally understand it, but this resonated with me because it was a business-to-business sale. That's how I was educated and crafted. So, but why else? Why did I come back to town? Why would I come back to Omaha, Nebraska? I was fortunate and the first in my family to go to college, get a college degree. My parents paid for it 100%. I had no debt. I graduated from University of Pennsylvania Wharton with my good friend Jeff Gordman and Todd Simon. And I went and worked for Citibank in the real estate division in Newport Beach, California. And Catherine and I were together out there, and she was working for Citibank, a division there too. And I don't know, it was pretty good. Like, I learned a lot about real estate. I enjoyed it a lot. And like, why would I leave that? I had lots of opportunity to go anywhere I wanted, but Catherine and I looked at each other after we got married, like, what do we do now? And we're like, we want to raise a family, and we need family around, and we need community. And it's really community, I think, that brought us back here, that I grew up in this environment. I knew people knew me. It's a giving environment. It's a good business environment. And I think when I called Dad, I think he just about fell off his chair when I said, hey, I'm thinking of coming back into the business, but I want to do this side of the business. I do want to take a step back. I want to focus on, just take a tangent here. Relationships matter. Relationships matter. Leo Nog and my grandfather were good friends, business associates. They socialized. They were at the same synagogue. Like, Leo Nog ended up at Bergman Incentives, created Bergman Incentives. And I think that's an important point. I think you look at your life and there's points at which things would have gone one way or another. We don't know what happened if he didn't join the business, but I don't know what would happen if there was no incentives division at Bergman Incentives. And it was a tiny little sideline of the Bergman wholesale business at the time. And while I was working at Citibank, it's another interesting side note, relationships matter. My mentor, the first guy I ever worked for at Citibank in Newport Beach in 1986, Catherine and I had the pleasure of having lunch with he and his wife last week. So he was an important part of my career and my education, and I've maintained a relationship with him, and it was nice to get together with them. And so I think that's just a little thread that kind of runs through my life that's important to me. So I think that coming back here was all about community for Catherine and I, and we returned. And as I recall, Kevin, you came back around the same time, maybe a year later, 1991. And Kevin joined the jewelry business, and it was really kind of healthy for our family business. I was busy involved with a business that was a different line of business. I mean, really completely run separately than the Bergman main company. And Kevin came back and helped my dad with the jewelry business. And I think that was good from an integration standpoint. And I think another side note, I think Larry Gilinsky should be anybody's spirit animal for family business, because he never once criticized the thing I did. He never once questioned the decision I wanted to make. He never once stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. He never told me I didn't know what I was doing, or that my way or the highway. I mean, these are things that are really important if you're running a business today and you're bringing your kids in, and many know what I'm talking about. So I think Kevin coming in the jewelry business was timely, because it was hard to see, but the wholesale jewelry business was disappearing. There were no more wholesalers in the world. That was where it was going. Hard to see when you're in it, but a waypoint for products to sit on a shelf was no longer needed. That business was declining, and the incentives business was growing. And I think the simple reason, we're both distributors, and frankly, having the expertise that Bergman already had in distribution helped me personally with our business. But Bergman Jewelers as a wholesaler was just a waypoint for goods. Bergman Incentives adds value. It's a service business. We make money selling product, but it's a service business. So we add value by warehousing and kitting and technology and decoration. We now have our own embroidery. We help companies build brand. We help people promote and recognize and reward. And I think that's why the promotional products industry went from $5 billion in 1990 to $26 billion last year. I don't know what the wholesale jewelry business was in 1990, but I know what it is today, and that is zero. So I think Kevin coming in at that time was very helpful, because jewelry had to pivot from wholesale to retail, and Kevin brought in lines that we didn't have. He helped rebrand. He helped kind of bring the business up into what we'll call the 90s at the time. But we were growing really rapidly in incentives, and some things happened in 2001 to kind of change Kevin's perspective. And I will say, as a side note, 2001 was a really tough year for our family. But 2001 was a really pivotal year for our business. Kevin found out he was having triplets. And so he was blessed with 3 healthy triplets that I don't think were ever in the NICU, which is amazing. And he said, "Hey, David, I think these retail hours and building a jewelry business is not going to be the easiest and best for my family life. How about I help out here in the incentives business?" So I was like, geez, we needed that so badly I couldn't even tell you. And so Kevin joined the incentives business, which was a much more flexible, sales-oriented, business-to-business approach. So that was 2001. Also in 2001, we moved out of the same 4 square blocks we had been in for 114 years. Same 4 square block radius from 1888 to 2001. We moved to our current location at 9411 F Street, which gave us more horizontal. We needed space to store and distribute all the tchotchkes. So we made plans to move, and then just as importantly, if not more importantly, I met Mike Battershell in the fall of 2000. And Mike was a mutual acquaintance. Well, this goes back to relationships. So I'm going to digress again. So my friend Joel Brodsky, of blessed memory, invited me to join the MS Society board so many years ago, 1990, whatever. And this is what's great about Omaha. You don't have to have all the money in the world to sit on the boards, to give back, to be part of it. Sat on that board, met the people, eventually chaired it. One of their employees was friends with Mike, knew Mike from Creighton. Mike was coming to town for a wedding. says, you should meet Mike. He's in your business. He's looking to grow. And I'm like, so Mike and I had lunch at Cali Taco in October of 2000. And I can't really, he was 26 years old with a brand new young baby and a wife, and he was looking for bigger opportunities in his home state of Montana. And really, after one lunch at Cali Taco, I honestly could sense he would be a good addition to our team. And I guess he seemed to feel something good about it as well, because it wasn't 6 months later that he actually moved his family from Montana to Omaha and came to work for Bergman's in a commission-based job. This is a sales job. Took a big leap, big bet on our company, and within a short while he became our top salesperson. And it never stopped. Like just 100%, nose to the grindstone. Really made big waves in our business. So all these things combined really helped launch Bergman Incentives. Kevin joining, Mike joining, getting the right facility going, and I'll just talk a little bit about Mike, because he's an important part of the story. He has a unique ability to understand business from an owner point of view. We've all had good salespeople. It's like, yeah, but they couldn't, find their hand if it wasn't attached to them, or they just couldn't organize anything, they couldn't think through it, they couldn't look at it as a business that Mike does. And he always showed an interest in ownership, but in typical fashion, I didn't feel very comfortable with that. Family business, equity, nobody gives that out. Nobody even sells that. We owners are just I can't even put my finger on it, but it just didn't feel comfortable. And Mike had always had his eye on running his own company, and he had the ability. That was real clear to me. If you check out his Instagram handle, it's Mike B for Boss. So he always, that was always where he was going. So it took some introspection on my part to understand myself as an owner and to understand the right path to take. Because it meant big changes for our business, not something anyone takes lightly. And Mike and I suffered through some what I'll call near breakups. And again, I really have to credit Dad with taking the time to sit down and talk to Mike and talk to me and say, well, what? He just brought us together. Like, it wasn't that hard. Sometimes we don't communicate, and you have to communicate to get to where you want to go. And Dad was really, I credit you 100% with that. And, Larry, people are his strong suit. So, thus, a succession plan now included a non-family member for the first time ever. And it really was win-win. This allowed us to craft an attractive deal for Mike to buy into the business and to be able to purchase shares from me over time, and with the plan for him to eventually take over. We figured that out in 2017. In 2019, Mike became CEO, and I still don't know what my title is. It doesn't matter. I'm called a principal. I don't know. That's fine. And since we made that deal in 2017, our business has doubled in size. Mike has added tremendous value to the business. He's got energy and focus and drive that I don't have, and especially, I'm 60 now. Mike's I got about a bar mitzvah on Mike, so he's got a lot more energy, and he's got a lot of focus, and I'm now, of our whole group of 4 shareholders, I'm the small shareholder in the business, and I'm just fine with that. But it's a different place to be, but I'm very happy with where we are. And I'm really happy with what we've done. And Amy, our most recent addition, our CFO, became a shareholder 2 years ago, and that shows you that Mike learned from his experience with me. He's like, I'm not going to make the same mistake I feel like David almost made, which I could have very easily said, no, that's never happening, and Mike would have gone and started his own business, and it would, that would have been what happened. And we would have run our business, and he would have been incredibly successful, I'm 100% sure. But it's better for him, and it's better for us. Together, we're much bigger, much stronger, working from a base of 136 years. And it's great. And Kevin has always been a partner and will always be a partner, and is an important element to the continued growth of this company. I will note that the transition was somewhat difficult, not for me or Mike, but for our employees. Mike has a totally different management style than me. I'm very laissez-faire. I'm frankly not a very good manager. And Mike holds people accountable. And I think it was they had cognitive dissonance trying to figure out what was going on most days. But not anymore. There's very few of us left from the before Mike days, right? There's I don't know how many people are actually know when David was CEO in our company. So I feel I learned about myself. I'm a much better owner with partners. I learned that about myself. I don't favor having everything on my shoulders. And frankly, sometimes we need people to hold us accountable. Who holds you accountable when you're the sole owner and you're in charge and you think everything you do is the right decision? But it's a lot on your shoulders. You don't sleep at night. I think it's great. And Mike's honest with me. Like, he'd tell me when he didn't own a share, like what I'm doing wrong and what needs to happen. He would always tell me that. And so I think that's been healthy for me. I'm active in the business daily. I do what I like best, working with clients. And although my kids, Catherine and our kids, are not really interested in our business from a succession standpoint, there's room for the next generation. And that next generation has just been defined more broadly. Kevin's kids, it could be one of them that comes into the business. Mike's kids, Amy's kids, I don't know. But whoever comes in's got to add value. My dad said that to me when I got there. He's like, it's not like this corner office with the big salary. Like, I got some money, I think Catherine and I took about a 2/3 pay cut to come to Omaha. That's okay. Yeah, you add value. You bring the value, it doesn't matter. There's always room, I think, for more family in the business, and so no doors are closed. And so really, just to sum things up for you, I'm really grateful. I just am. I feel like I am meeting and continue to meet my own definition of success, which is I feel in control of my most precious commodity, time. I love the way I spend my time. I enjoy who I spend my time with. I get to continue my 23-year relationship with a key partner. I've spent most of the last 30 plus years going to work with my brother and my father. There's not a day I don't walk into Dad's office. If both of us are in the office, there's not a day I don't walk in his office and have a conversation with him. I get to take my dog to work. And I just returned from 2 weeks in California. I rented a house in Newport Beach where our son Jack lives, and we had our girls out there. We had our 2 grandkids. Catherine's parents joined us. Spent 2 weeks in California enjoying time with my family, and I didn't feel guilty about leaving the business, and I was able to stay on top of the business that I handle, and I got to spend time with my family. So I think that's what's important to me today at the age of 60. And most importantly, I feel like the values that Bergman has been built upon, that I helped carry forward for decades, are the values that live on today from generation to generation. So I'm very proud of that, and I don't even think about the word retirement. I think we should retire the word retirement. I think it's really about spending time with people you like and respect, doing what you like to do, and as we get older, fortunately, we get to say, I want to do less of the things I don't like to do. But it's just about doing what you want to do and do it with your time and add value wherever you see it and want to add value. So that's how I feel about where I am, and I'm really happy with that. And lastly, of course we have tchotchkes. So on your way out, if you have feet, you will enjoy these. They're socks. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for listening.